Hey guys, this week we feature Ian Everett of the band Solid Bronze on Performance Anxiety. Their debut album, The Fruit Basket, is a great, amazing throwback to 70s funk. So much so that it inspired me to try this in my funk voice. So here we go. Check out the funk all-star that made a guest appearance. There's also some horn work from Morphine saxman Dana Colley. This Steely Dan-esque album took over a year to make, and in that time, Ian created some great stories of memory that he shared with us, including the story behind the name. Follow them on Facebook and Instagram at Solid Bronze Band. Follow us at Performance ANX. Merchandise, and I highly recommend you buy some, is at performanceanx.threadless.com. And let's get the funk out of this intro and into the show with Ian Everett.
This is Ian Everett from Solid Bronze, and I'm here on the Performance Anxiety podcast.
I had to help my wife try to connect some Bluetooth stuff, and it wasn't detecting it on her phone, and we just kind of gave up. So,
yeah, it's like I rarely trust anything without wires, you know?
Oh, yeah, tell me about it. It's, I don't know, technology, I'm at the age now where it's starting to pass me by, I think. My kids know all about it. And,
it's hard to keep up, man. Yeah.
Oh, it really is. It really is. Again, I really do appreciate you spending some time with me and taking me through the recording of the debut album. And before we get too far into it, I want to know a little bit more about you and how you got into music. Now, you're from New Jersey, right?
Correct, yeah.
All right, whereabouts in New Jersey?
I grew up right outside of Trenton.
Okay.
So that was where I spent most of my life, my formidable years.
Yeah. I lived in Jersey for about 13 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in Branchburg. So it's
north.
It's like right central. It's like slightly northeast of Newark. It's
okay.
It's right on the border between Somerset and Hunterdon counties.
Okay, cool.
So it's in Somerset, but literally a 5-minute drive and you're in Hunterdon. So
cool.
So I was talking with a mutual friend of ours about going to the Princeton Record Exchange. I used to do that all the time, and that was my favorite place to go ever.
Yeah. My favorite record store in the country, yeah.
Oh, it really is. It's yeah. I used to go there back in the 90s, and God, I would go there with like $20-$30 and come out with 15 to 20 albums, all promos, from the radio stations and all.
Yeah. Because PRB was probably a lot of stuff in there too.
Oh yeah. It would be all the like the cardboard case promos and the cutouts and oh man, it was a dream.
Yeah,
and that's how I found most of my favorite bands is going through there and finding something that looked cool.
Right. I mean, just judging a book by its cover, which is like
exactly what you're not supposed to do apparently. But
yeah, no, I never quite agreed with that. You know, I mean, you can kind of know by looking at something like at least what to expect a little bit, or you should. I think you should know what to expect by looking at the cover. You know,
well, that's one thing that with electronic downloads and all has really suffered is album art. I used to be drawn in by album art, and that looks amazing. Let me get it and listen to it. And with downloads, you might get a piece of art with it, like some kind of album cover with it, but you don't even really get to see it until you download it.
Yeah, and there's something different about seeing a 12 by 12 inch square of art versus like a
thumbnail,
a JPEG that's been passed around on the internet, like off Kazaa or something. You know? Yeah,
exactly.
It just has it's a physical piece of artwork, you know, versus even if it's a high quality picture on the computer, it still like doesn't exist really in front of you, you know.
Exactly, and that's what I try to explain to everybody is if I don't feel like I own the record or the album if I don't actually have a physical copy of it.
Yeah. I mean,
it could just disappear. And it would something happens to my computer and all of a sudden it's gone. It would take something catastrophic to lose the 3,500 CDs I've got downstairs.
Right.
So anyway, I don't know. That's might be anybody who's listened to the show before has heard me talk about that. But what kind of music were you growing up on?
A lot. Is a real wild ride.
Oh yeah.
In the past for me, like it's just come up now more than ever, maybe. But like my first love of music was like rap music, like hip hop in the '90s.
Okay. Like
Tupac, Jay-Z, like DMX, that mid '90s era. My first CD ever was Usher's debut CD.
Oh wow.
My Way by Usher. Yeah. So it was like, because that I think was becoming like pop music kind of, like I used to watch like BET at the time.
Okay.
And that was like my first like conscious choice of music. And I think it's come up a lot because now like I realized a lot of what I liked before was just like old funk records, technically, because a lot of it was just old samples of stuff that I either realized later or like, you realize that later on down the line when you're not like 10 years old.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so that was kind of my first foray into like finding something that was like, that I connected with. And then when I became a teenager, it turned into punk rock.
Okay.
Which around Trenton, there was a lot going on when I was getting into high school.
Yep.
And a lot of like Elks Lodge shows and like church shows.
Did you ever go up to the shows up in New Brunswick area? Like the Melody and those areas?
Not that early on. Okay. Yeah. Like I knew about them, but I couldn't drive.
Yeah. I had a friend of mine was in he was pretty deep in that scene. He had a couple bands in there. Guy named Alf Bartone. He's in a band X Number 5, Muskalunge, some like late 80s, early 90s New Brunswick, New Jersey hardcore, New Jersey punk bands. He was friends with the Bouncing Souls and all those guys.
Yeah. Okay. A lot of the stuff that was early on was like, it's all just like kids from my high school, or like, I remember seeing My Chemical Romance play.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Like in the middle of a show, like they were just guys.
Yeah.
And 2 years later, I was like, their album was out in the store. I was like, I just saw those guys. Like,
that's the weirdest feeling, man.
Really weird. Yeah. And like, what a weird band, they just, it went in an odd direction too, but they were just like kids,
It's amazing to see that progression from just, a bunch of guys playing at like you said, like at an Elks Lodge. And then all of a sudden something happens, they get a deal and they're everywhere. And it seems like it's no time flat.
Right. And I think like at that time, like there were bands like Saves the Day, right, that were around. So like they were just kids from Princeton too. And I guess that's how kind of all the punk bands were. Cause like when it's a fad, you get signed. Yeah. Or whatever. Right.
Yeah, so like Shades Apart and.
Yeah. For me being
Vision.
A kid, it was like, whoa, these guys are just like, big time in a band. It was like, no, they're just guys.
Yeah. Yeah. I just saw those guys like last week at the Melody.
Yeah. Oh. And then, now I realize that that's very true. Like everybody's just guys, right? Like everyone's just like a regular old person.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So at what point did you start playing music?
When I was 14, I started to learn to play bass.
Okay.
My cousin and I like started up a little band idea, which was like my brother playing drums on like a stool, like literally playing a stool as a drum.
Oh, wow.
And then just kind of like morphed into like then meeting a drummer. So like half of high school was like kind of like real kind of punk songs. And then being in high school in the like mid 2000s in New Jersey, there's just like genre upon genre upon genre of music, right? So it was like, like a post-hardcore band, like a screamo emo bands, like, there was just a lot going on, a lot of different like sub-genre types of music that you had to either like, you were into some, but not all of them.
Oh yeah. And you can go down crazy rabbit holes with that stuff.
So that was a weird time to make music, but like we found like something cool that we liked and whatever. But I played bass all through high school in those bands. And didn't really play guitar until I went to college. I started to learn like acoustic guitar, like nylon string.
Oh, wow.
Finger picking stuff because my mom had an old guitar.
So you weren't trying to be just that like guy at the party playing guitars to pick up chicks. You were actually trying to learn how to actually play.
No, never tried it. And I doubted it would have worked anyway. But yeah, like I had started working at a Goodwill and was buying like Simon and Garfunkel records and Cat Stevens records and all that kind of stuff. So like, then I was like, oh, whoa, like how the hell do you play Blackbird on guitar? Like,
oh God.
Yeah. And stuff like that. Yeah.
Good luck. I tried, I don't know if you know the comedian Mitch Hedberg, but
oh yeah,
he said the best. I took guitar lessons on and off for 6 months throughout my entire life. And so I was just trying in between, just teaching myself. And I don't know why, because I don't know the guitar. So why am I trying to teach myself? So that my favorite Mitch Hedberg line is, I was the worst. I shouldn't teach myself how to play the guitar because I don't know how to play. But that Blackbird was one of the ones that I tried and I gave up almost immediately. I'm like, ding, forget it. So I plugged in my electric and just started making all kinds of noise.
Yeah, I could just use feedback instead.
Yeah, exactly.
Just like make a lot of sound.
Yeah.
I don't know. I never took lessons. Just kind of like learn songs either by ear. I just put headphones on and listen, or like look up tabs.
Yes.
Sounds like cheating, but like, hey, as long as it gets you there, like.
Yeah, well, and you're actually learning
music.
You are actually learning with tabs. I mean, it's not.
Yeah.
And the funny thing to me is always when people say, I don't know how to do tablature. That's the easiest thing on the planet. How do you not
it's
figure
pretty
it out?
easy, yeah.
So I would highly recommend tabs to anybody who doesn't know how to play.
Yep. Look up tabs.
And now you don't have to worry about the magazines coming out and hoping it's a song you want to learn. You just go to a website and they've got 10,000 songs transcribed for you.
Yeah, I used to print them all out. I would just have stacks of stuff in the basement of
me too.
Yeah, all those rancid bass lines I was going for back in the day.
Yeah, I had a little band in the when was it? Like the mid 90s. We never played out or anything. Just me and two buddies of mine. And we similar situation where we had I played guitar and no lessons, no idea how to play. My buddy played bass, no lessons, no idea how to play. And my third friend, drums, no lessons, no cymbals, and no idea how to play.
Sweet.
So it was a crazy cacophony. We call Super Karate Monkey Death Car.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
I like that stuff though. Like you figure out you fit into your own thing, you like. So I went to art school, and part of what they taught me in school was like, we're not going to teach you a way to paint, right? We're going to help you find the style that you want to find.
Oh, what school did you go to?
I went to University of the Arts, which is in Center City, Philly.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that one. I studied photography in college.
Oh, okay.
So I went up to Rochester, and I wish they had.
Cool, yeah.
Yeah, I wish they had more of a curriculum like that, where we would help you find your own way. It was an interesting school. Met a lot of great people I'm still friends with. A lot of working photographers still. I did it for 10 years, but it wasn't the best for students helping each other out. It was very competitive, and the professors I had were good, but the atmosphere was just really weird there.
Yeah. No, it was. We had a good time, a lot of support and stuff. It was a small school.
Yeah.
But it was a pretty good environment to figure your shit out.
That's good, man. I'm glad to hear that because being supportive because doing art for a living is hard enough. Just
right.
You need all the support you can get. So is that
it's hard to do it.
Yeah,
it's hard to motivate yourself.
It really is, and most artists are more about the art and not the money that they get from the art. So
you need a little combination of both, I think.
Exactly. So when a school can help you gain your confidence and also support you and then show you how to market yourself, that's a great combination.
Yeah.
So when did you meet your partner in Solid Bronze, George Miller?
We went to the same high school. He was we were in the same class, but we had a lot of the same friends, similar friend groups.
Okay.
So we've known each other for, since we were in high school, like teenagers. So, but we didn't really start hanging out. We were in a band together, 9 years ago, 8 years ago, something like that. And then that was when we really started I was like, oh shit, this kid can really play.
Awesome.
I think we kind of bonded together with similar interests and similar kind of feel in the band. But we've known each other for a while. Yeah.
The band Solid Bronze, it's just basically just the two of you, right?
Correct. Yeah. At its core.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what's behind the name Solid Bronze?
Honestly, it is so hard to find a band name that doesn't exist already.
Well, next time you guys can use Super Karate Monkey Death Car. I won't. I won't say anything.
Now that I know it's available, sure. It's tough. Honestly, that was a stressful time trying to come up with it.
I bet.
You come up with something you think is cool, and then you're like, oh, great.
3 other bands have that.
Yeah. Or you think of something, and then the next day you wake up and you're like, ugh, terrible.
Yeah. It's almost to the point where it's got to be something really bizarre. A friend of mine that is in a 2-piece. It's like a 2-piece math rock band, but they couldn't come up. They had the same issue where they had a hard time coming up with a name, and they each came up with a word and put them together, and that was the name. It's Science Penguin.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know how that happened, but I don't think those two words have ever gone together before. So
yeah.
The fact that you guys came up with something that sounds awesome, like Solid Bronze. I mean, it sounds humorous, but it sounds like solid gold. No, maybe bronze.
Yeah, right. Not quite there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and wanted to keep it as simple as possible too. We've had some complicated band names in the past that are tough for people to remember, and
oh gosh,
just kind of pretty easy. You hear it, you remember, recognize it or something, or you could search it easy. And,
yeah.
Kind of landed on it eventually, and it stuck. So
now we mentioned that the band is just you and George. Is that on purpose that you wanted to keep it just the two of you, or was it just hard to find somebody else to that fit the style?
It was by design.
Okay.
Originally, we were just going to be the original idea was we'll just record some songs, a no pressure band.
Okay.
No shows.
Yeah.
No, if 50 people hear it, that's cool. But just to kind of get into our own thing and just record, which is my favorite part about making music anyway.
Oh, okay.
So it sort of snowballed into some other stuff.
Now, were you guys in different bands at this time when you started working on Solid Bronze?
No, we were in a band that that ended,
Okay.
and then I was sort of at a point where I was like, all right, I'm about to turn 30. I could probably stand to like kind of throw the towel in,
Yeah.
you know, like
Mom's
like
in your
30,
ear, get a job.
yeah, like I was like 30 is like, you know, you're either all in or all out for it. And like, I was like, I could like take a break, man. I've been playing in bands for like years and years.
Right.
And, you know, how many New Brunswick basements can you play? Like that, you know, it becomes like a chore.
That makes sense.
If you're just doing it, you know? So like, we were like, yo, we'll take that aspect out and we'll just record when we want to do it. And it'll just be like two people making a decision, you know, like streamline it. And, you know, we have friends that are musicians and stuff too, like recording. You could call somebody in, like you could kind of just build it that way.
So it's kind of like a Steely Dan approach.
Yeah, sort of. Yeah.
All right. That's cool. And now you guys took a while to record this album. It was about a year, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was like a year of recording. We got hooked up with Mickey, with Dean Ween, who produced it, through Chris Harford, who co-produced it.
Okay.
Who like I'd worked with him a little bit at our job.
Okay. And
he's like a legendary guy in our area, been around for a long time playing. And
Ween's amazing.
Yeah, right. And Hartford's been connected with them since Ween sort of got started. So him and Dean are tight. So when I called in Chris Harford, and he was like, well, maybe I'll produce it. Like, I don't know if I see myself adding what you guys want to this project. And I was like, all right, that's cool.
Right.
And he was like, oh, I think Mickey would like this. And I was like, all right. I mean, who knows? That's like a far-fetched thing.
Yeah.
And then next thing we know, we're like recording at his studio.
Wow.
And it was just going to be, we'll record the rhythm tracks and like whatever we can up there, and we'll just finish off the rest at home, you know?
Okay.
Which we did. And then he was like, yo, I want to like help you guys like really finish it.
Oh, awesome.
So we were like, I mean, yeah.
Cool. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So like it was pretty much meeting up like once a month for like 10 months or close to a year, just like kind of knocking out different things.
Okay.
And it was cool that way because we had time to sit on things and listen to it and go like, maybe this doesn't work, or like think of another idea for like, well, maybe I hear this on this track. Where I think if you like kind of record, I mean, you could record in 10 days, right? But like, that's how you feel within 10 days. How you feel in a year's time, like you can really kind of like work some stuff in or out. You know?
Yeah, you get a chance to let the songs breathe and develop.
Yeah. And mostly, I mean, it was based just because everyone was busy. Like he was playing a lot of, his record had just come out, Mickey's. So he was playing a lot of Dean Ween band shows, and Ween was actually playing a good amount during like 2017. Okay. 2018 when we were recording. So mostly it was just a schedule thing, but I think it ended up working out in our favor. Well, anyway.
The album is awesome. I've been listening to it for days now, and I love it. It's really cool. It has got this amazing 70s funk sound.
Things just ain't the same. Can't take the change, that's Papa's bug.
Did you guys get a chance to use vintage equipment on that to get some of those sounds, or is it a lot of modeling?
I mean, our instruments are not like vintage, really. I mean, my bass is the same bass I bought when I was 14.
That might be vintage now. I don't.
Yeah, I guess kind of technically. Forgot about the time aspect.
Yeah.
But mostly I think it's just like that's where our heads go. Like,
Okay.
you know, that's sort of where that's the kind of stuff that we listen to mostly, or like it's what we sort of at least wanted to like. That was sort of what we bonded over to start playing music anyway.
Okay.
Was like love for Sly and Curtis and P-Funk and like Herbie Hancock and like
oh yeah,
that kind of stuff where like we're like, let's see how we can like tap into that.
Well, it's just a cool album. It's I don't know lots about funk, and so that I'm kind of at a disadvantage talking about it. And you know, I'm hoping maybe by the end of this talk, I'll learn a little bit more. Maybe you even be able to steer me into some bands when I tell you my favorite tracks off this album. You know, maybe some people that I should listen to because of, you know, oh, I love this song, so check out these guys. But
yeah,
now you also had a lot of guest stars on this album, people coming in and helping you out on vocals and whatever. I'm trying to let me see. You've had like you said, Michael Hampton, Glenn McClellan, but for me the coolest guy on this list is Dana Colley from Morphine.
Yeah.
How did you get up with Dana and get to work with him?
That was a Chris Harford connection. Him and Dana were actually like were in college together, and they had a band back when they were in college. And they stayed close and connected. So obviously before there were any horns on it, it was like, well, yeah, we got to have horns on here.
Right.
Like, and he was like, I think Dana would be the guy to do it. God. And so he was like, just send him some stuff. So we never like sat in a studio with him, but somehow it was like even more magical to send him a song and then get back like legitimately 10 tracks of saxophone that he had just whipped up. And yeah, I mean, it would be a totally different album if it was not for those saxophone tracks. Oh,
absolutely. Now,
yeah.
Who's doing the vocals on a lot of these songs? You've got a lot of different styles going.
Yeah. And that was on purpose.
Okay.
Yeah. For the most part, they're all written by me and George.
Okay.
And I just didn't see me by myself singing all of them. So, I mean, there was some guest vocalists on there. A great woman named Carol Brooks, who's like a local that sings with Mickey and
okay,
up at John and Peter's a lot. And then actually my fiance's sister is the other female singer.
Oh, cool.
So that just kind of like worked out. And then there's a lot of effects on my voice too. Like there's a few songs where the voice is deep. That's really me deepening my voice.
Who's doing the main vocals on Invisible Man?
So that is Clue.
Okay.
His name is Chris Lewis. And I worked with him for a couple years ago. And we had like sort of collaborated a little bit back then.
Okay.
Again, Chris Harford was in the mix with this too when we were working together. And when we were doing this project, I was like, it would be kind of cool to ring in like some newer R&B with obviously like some more older R&B that we were doing.
Right.
And again, sent him a track, and that was the first thing he recorded to it and sent it back.
I love that track. That is such a great track.
It just kind of fit. It was the perfect move because I didn't know what to do with it vocally, and I knew that he would have like a totally different way of going about it.
Oh yeah, it's a great song. I mean, it sounds like it's kind of like if Isaac Hayes was in Twin Peaks. I love it. I think it's a great sound, and it's got that great Charles Pitts guitar sound. It's from Isaac Hayes. It sounds like you could have pulled it right off of By the Time I Get to Phoenix or something. I love it.
Well, that's Michael Hampton on the guitar solo, which is I think like his most funkadelic sounding moment for us.
Yeah. That's one of the things I wanted to mention. The guitar, and me being more of a rock guy, liking funk but not knowing a whole lot of it, the guitar in it, I get that Skip Pitts. I get like a sound like Eddie Hazel kind of a sound. It's amazing, and which is one reason why I wanted to. I would ask if it was all vintage equipment, is because it sounds like it's right out of that time period.
Yeah. I mean, there was one night where we were going up to the studio, and I got a text from Chris Harford, and he was like, "Yo, Hampton's coming." And I didn't even know, and I was like, "Oh!" I just like instantly got nervous. I was like, "Oh man, shit." And so I don't even remember the amp he was playing out of, but Mickey had his amp set up in the other room, and he just legitimately sat there in a chair and played over stuff for like, I don't know, 2 hours.
Oh my! And so he's played with Parliament and Funkadelic, and
yeah, Tales of Kid Funkadelic. Yeah, that's him.
That's that just lends that's legitimate 70s funk feel to it.
Yeah, because it's a legitimate picked from the 70s. Yeah. From best band of all time.
Oh yeah, probably using the same equipment he's played with for 30 years now.
Yeah, I mean that was a crazy night. Among the most memorable of recording was, I mean, I'm sitting feet away and just kind of like, trying to sort of understand what's happening. And I'm like, oh, that is like the same guy who plays the guitar solo on Knee Deep. Like,
jeez.
But I mean, we got very lucky with these things, Dana being willing to do it and doing like such an amazing job with the saxophone. And Michael Hampton he's pretty local to where we are, which is
cool.
Crazy enough. And he knows Mickey, and him being willing to do it was like, you couldn't think of it even happening,
Yeah.
Until it's happening in front of you.
Yeah, being a fan of that type of music, having that kind of a presence in the studio helping you out, it's just kind of blows your mind.
Game changing, yeah.
So and I've mentioned this several times. You guys have just a legit 70s funk sound. Was there a time where you were having a hard time getting the sound you wanted, or did you have to do anything strange in the studio to make it sound like you wanted it to sound?
No.
Oh, that's
honestly, yeah, there really wasn't. Like,
that's awesome.
We played, I mean, all the songs are pretty much written, me and George, bass and drums, or guitar and drums, and then built from that. Okay. So I think starting with such a rhythmic like core, I think maybe that has something to do with like maybe how it sounds so much to be like, it sounds so true to that era, you know, like, because we're focusing mostly on how the rhythm moves through the song.
Okay.
Whereas like, you know, you play a little something on an acoustic guitar and then add some drums on it. It doesn't quite have, it's hard to get that like that big feel
right
to the rhythmic aspect.
Well, that makes a lot of sense.
And so when we were kind of getting into this stuff, I was like, man, I'll just like, let's try to write as much on bass and drums as we can. And then it's easier for me to hear a guitar part on top of that, or George to see where he, you know, we kind of collaborated on, I'm hearing this here, like I'm hearing this on this one.
Now, when you've got something like Michael Hampton in the studio, or you know you're going to be sending tracks to Dana Colley, are you telling them what you want, or are you just letting them just come up with their own material?
It started out as like when I sent Dana some stuff, I was like, hey, I'm kind of like thinking about this here, and giving him these like sort of a little abstract ideas of like something I was thinking. And then I would get something back and just go like, oh, I don't need, is it right or not? Like, it doesn't matter. Like, this shit is insane.
It
right?
just sounds good.
Yeah. I was like, oh, well, did he pay attention? Did he not? Like, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So then I kind of realized it was just like, yo, just take it and run sort of. Hampton, it was just kind of like, well, I see you playing here. So he would solo on one part, but he would kind of like play through the whole song.
Oh,
so
cool.
I kind of like picked out in editing what like to use and not, which to think you would not use any of his guitar parts, but like, you know, how to kind of like weave it in and out. So pretty much, we just sort of let what was going to happen. And, I think that's how you sort of can get the best results anyway in that scenario.
And so the album is 10 tracks long, and it is called The Fruit Basket. Is there anything behind the title of the album?
Well, the original name for the band was the Fruit Basket Band.
Oh, okay.
And then there's a lot of negative feedback about the name Fruit Basket Band.
I can't imagine that.
Ultimately, it was a decision of like, all right, we got to change it. So then we're like, that was where a lot of the turmoil of coming up with another band name was like, well, obviously no one had the Fruit Basket Band.
Right, yeah.
But what else do we have now? So in turn, we, you know, gave a little homage to the first name by calling the album The Fruit Basket, which...
That's great.
You know, afterwards, you're like, well, you can put some meaning in there if you want to. You know, you can.
Yeah, you can put it wasn't intentional, it wasn't there in the first place, but you could see it there.
Yeah, I mean, we could have changed it at any point, but it was like, it makes sense to call it that as well. You know,
the album, like I said, it's got 10 tracks. Is there anything left on the cutting room floor? Did you? Because you spent a year in, you know, working on it and recording it. Is there anything that didn't make the cut?
Nope.
Oh, awesome!
Now,
you guys did do you get Lee Scratch Perry to do a dub mix of Invisible Man. How did that come about?
It had absolutely nothing to do with me. So the album's coming out on a label called Schnitzel, which puts out a lot of like repressed Ween records.
Oh, okay.
Mostly. So Mickey knew the guy who runs that. And again, luckily he was into it and was down to sort of work with us. So he had an idea at one point of, hey, what if we did a remix of a song? Like, that could be cool. And I was like, automatically sort of think like a Jay-Z Linkin Park remix. Like, but then I was like, oh, well, what if we did like a dub? So I was like, what if it was like sort of like something like Lee Scratch Perry, you know, like a dub mix?
Yeah.
And he was like, well, I don't know if it, you know, I don't know about Lee Scratch Perry, but we could get somebody. And then like slowly it became like, oh, getting Lee Scratch Perry is like an actual option.
Wow. Jeez.
And he knows a lot of people in the labels in the UK. So there's, you know, some connections with Jamaica and a lot of reggae heads over there. And somehow it ended up happening.
Man.
Which, you know, just pile on another astonishing moment, you know. Well,
listening to Invisible Man before hearing the dub mix and then afterwards, it makes sense. It almost seems like that was a natural way to go with that.
Yeah. And that song especially, I mean, there's influence of dub music in the original song.
Right.
You know, adding the echo, making the bass very pronounced during, you know, the sort of spoken part, and just different stuff like that, where you're kind of when I'm sort of listening to dub, that I was like, all right, I could use these, I could steal this stuff for this song.
Yeah.
And yeah, just so happens, it sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
It's a dub too, right?
It does. Now I'll tell you the tracks I love. I told you that I love Invisible Man. I mean, it sounds like something Isaac Hayes would do if he was still making music and, you know, alive. Mm-hmm. There's also Swangin'. That song is fun. That is really cool, and the guitar solo at the exit is fantastic.
Yeah,
I love that. Who did that?
That's Michael Hampton.
Okay, that's it, because it sounds like something right out of his right in his wheelhouse. It's just
yeah. I think that's actually the first take that was recorded of the first song that he played on.
Oh wow!
Yeah. Jeez. So we had it going with another take for a while. I was like, yeah, the third one I think is the best. And then I was like mixing and I listened back and I was like, oop, no, we were wrong. This one's the best one. Yeah, I mean, it's like, again, just crazy to even think about, but it fits so well with that sort of second half of that song, I think, too.
And you guys have some great instrumentals and longer instrumental passages that are very psychedelic. It's almost like Pink Floyd does funk or jazz. It's just you know, songs like Bronze Magic, let's see, Mumbo Jumbo, and like that old saying goes, Paradise Lounge. Those are my favorite tracks off the album. Those songs make me want to put the album on, you know, have a cocktail party, eat some barbecue. I don't know, just put on some leisure suits. I don't know, but it's music that I want to share with people, and it's just It's really, really cool. Like, as soon as I heard it, I told my wife, I said, all right, I'm playing this for you, and I don't do that with everybody that I interview. I'm like, you got to hear this because you're gonna like this. So it's great music to you don't have to be a fan of a specific genre to like, you can say, oh, it's a metal band. You know, well, I'm not going to play that for my wife. But
yeah,
this is music you can just put on and have a good time to, because it's just easy going.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, and I think that's like something that it wasn't conscious, but it's just all of our unconsciously, it's all of the things that we like that we,
Right.
wanted to try to make,
Now,
we're not jazz musicians by any means, but I was like, how can we play a jazz song without actually knowing how to do it?
Well, you guys nailed it. I mean, you've got some great smooth jazz sound to a bunch of these songs. It's some of it like I had mentioned, Mumbo Jumbo and Bronze Magic. They're kind of like funky world music almost. It reminds me of those two tracks in particular. Remind me of one of my favorite bands in the '90s. A lot of bands were doing side projects at that time, and there is a band called Tuatara, and I don't. Okay. It was Mike McCready from Pearl Jam. I think Peter Buck was in it. Barrett Martin from Screaming Trees. And they had a whole bunch of horns. Skerrick was in it. Skerrick Sincarna. Okay. And their albums sound like specifically like those two songs, and it's just it was a lot different at the time. It was so much different from what I was listening to, which is a lot of heavier stuff. And when I heard your music, I'm like, all right, yeah, I like this. This is it's not what I normally listen to, but it's going to be. So
wow, yeah, and I think that's sort of something that I'm finding a lot with people's reactions to it as well. Like,
that's good to hear.
To make something that, like, if you don't really love rock music, it's not like a complete rock record where every song is like in your face, but there's guitar solos in it.
Yeah.
Like, there's like, like a keyboard solo or like just a long dirging groove song, and George and I are into like so many different things musically that, like, for it all to come together and still sort of sound cohesive, without we wanted to, it just sort of comes out that way,
well, it makes sense. You got so many influences. It's going to come out, and it probably won't come out as a straight rock song.
Yeah. I mean, I've played in enough like rock bands and psych bands and stuff like that, like, and this is probably the same with the band from the 90s. It was like, why don't we do something that we also like that we never get a chance to play? And so it's going to have like elements of, like, again, I don't know how to write a jazz song, say,
right.
But I can take what I know and turn it into fake it.
Yeah.
Or just, like add the needed elements to make something that I would like to listen to myself.
Yeah. Well, you're making your own sound, really. You're making stuff that you want to listen to.
Yeah. Combine everything that you like into one thing that you hopefully also like.
Well, the album makes me want to go back to the 70s, and there's really not a whole lot of stuff that makes me want to do that. It's like this album, old baseball, football cards, and big wheels, and that's like those are the only things that make me want to go back. But
glad to be a part of that list. Yeah.
Well, I'd love it. Now, how can people find you on social media, and how can they pick up the album when it's released?
So we're pretty active on Instagram, which is Solid Bronze Band. And same goes for Facebook.
Okay.
And we're on Twitter, but neither of us have ever done that before. So it's like, it's a little bit maybe daunting to start.
Yeah.
But you can find that through Facebook, Solid Bronze.
All right. And where can they find how is the album going to be released?
It's going to be all streaming platforms, and it'll be in the stores.
Awesome.
So I don't know exactly which stores per se, but it's going to be worldwide. So it'll be all over in Europe. It'll be distributed throughout the U.S. And it'll be Spotify, Bandcamp, things like that.
Excellent. Yeah. Well, I've been lucky enough to be able to hear it, and when it comes out, I will definitely be getting myself a physical copy. Maybe if I make it up to Jersey, I can meet up and get you guys to sign it or something.
Hey, sweet. Meet you at Princeton Record Exchange.
There you go. Oh, awesome. There you go. I'll bring some of my old stuff and I can trade it.
Yeah.
And thank you so much.
Store credit.
Yeah. Exactly. That was always what I got anyway. Never wanted the cash. I always got the credit.
I'll yeah. There's something else in here I can find.
Oh, yeah. I have one more question I wanted to ask, and I didn't think about this until just now. Are you guys going to be supporting the album by playing live at all?
That's like an aspect that's been the toughest so far.
Worse than your name?
What's that?
Worse than trying to find the name for the band?
Actually, yeah. I'd rather try to find a new name. As of right now, there's no tour planned. We're still working out like live band and lineup. And that's been pretty tough to find, just like guys that are local that aren't playing constantly also.
Yeah.
Just because it's like a specific kind of thing that it calls for specific players, right, basically. But we're getting there, and got a couple of shows coming up in August, but trying to work out like a release show where we can play like sort of for the album release.
And honestly, the album is great.
Thank you, man. Thank you so much.
I've listened to it several times.
Amazing to hear. Yeah, I really appreciate it.
So, all right. So I did ask you this before. Knowing the songs I like. So my favorite tracks are, let's see, Bronze Magic, Invisible Man, Paradise Lounge, like the old saying goes, and Mumbo Jumbo.
Cool.
Who should I go look for now? Working my way backwards from you back to the 70s.
Yeah, okay. That's fair. There's a band that I just started listening to because I couldn't remember how to spell their name. It's a weird name. It's called like Krunga Bin, I want to say.
Oh, is it Krumbin?
Is that how you say that?
Yeah, KHRUN.
Yeah.
Yes, I do know those guys.
Okay.
That's a great band.
Yeah, that shit rules.
Yes.
And I just recently found that out,
yeah.
Unfortunately.
I found
that stuff is like, and they just put out a dub record, like of their last record. So
yes. Yeah, I just got that notification.
Wow. Yeah. And I was like, man, I can see some similarities here.
Yes.
Between like what I feel like I'm doing and what I hear them doing.
Yeah. They've definitely got that vintage sound.
Yeah, and just like three people, you could pull that off with three people like that. Amazing. There's something going on there for sure.
Oh, yeah.
And the other, I guess, Wolfpack. Do you know them?
That sounds familiar. I think when I watched a Crumbin video, they something for theirs was like, oh, if you like that, then you'll like these guys.
Probably, yeah.
I've seen it. I don't think I've heard it yet.
Yeah, they are like, I mean, just really tight, and great players. But there's not a lot of like modern, like funk bands that are doing like quite so similar stuff,
right?
Whereas like, there's a lot of more sort of like maybe like electronic funk throwbacks, like Damn Funk.
Okay.
Who I like a lot, but he's more of like an 80s like boogie kind of guy.
Okay. Now, is there someone
with synthesizers?
Okay. Is there something, maybe somebody you listen to and it's in like the Isaac Hayes, Parliament, Funkadelic thing that's maybe not as popular as those guys that might be a good listen? Because this album's really got me wanting to dive into this stuff now.
Yeah. Let me think. So I'm trying to think of like what we were really into. The Meters.
Oh yeah, they're good.
Yeah, the Meters was like a big one.
Sissy Strut is one of my favorites.
Even like Electric Miles Davis records.
Okay, I never really gave that a shot, so I'll have to look into that.
Yeah, some of it's pretty far out, but if you can get into like, there's a crazy set of like the On the Corner sessions, which like On the Corner is like my favorite Miles Davis because it's like, I mean, it is like fucked up.
Okay, I'll definitely check it out.
Yeah, like really cool, odd, like bass and drums, and then the box set's like just hours and hours and hours. You know? But it's a lot of extended stuff. So like, you know, in regards to maybe something like Mumbo Jumbo, that was like me listening to a lot of like jazz guys doing like sidelong exploration.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Like Archie Shepp.
Okay.
There's an album called Pitch and Can. And Pitch and Can's just like one side of the record.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
And, you know, just like a slow moving, like, groove, and there's like a little harmonica in there. There's like some sax in there. Like,
that's awesome.
It was a cool time for jazz where guys were kind of getting more into like jazz guys getting into rock.
Okay.
And they were kind of doing like, stuff that's maybe like more palatable for guys who listen to rock music.
Right. Yeah.
Listening to like, even like, listening to Love Supreme or something is like intense if you don't listen to a lot of jazz. Yeah,
exactly. I've got some Coltrane and stuff that I listen to, but it's I got to be in the right mood for it. But
there's like jazz funk stuff is like even Herbie Hancock.
Yeah, and I'm not
like Thrust.
I'm familiar with some of his stuff, like the early '80s Herbie Hancock stuff.
The album Thrust.
Okay.
Is one that was like definitely in our heads.
I'll definitely check that out then.
And then, you know, the one with Chameleon, Headhunters.
Okay.
Yeah, those are pretty pinnacle to for us when we were making the music, for sure.
Oh, excellent. Those are the ones I'll definitely check out then.
Yeah. Good. Great stuff.
I will. I promise I'll let you go. It's been over an hour now.
All right.
And
my pleasure.
Half of this is probably going to end up in the show anyway. So
cool. Awesome, man.
Hey,
thank you so much.
My pleasure, man.
Anytime.